It is common to hear the nostalgic cry for the good old days, to be restored back to a time when life was simpler, less chaotic, and less strained. So often our concept of restoration is in fact tied to a previous state or moment in time. Yet the biblical meaning of the word restoration is to receive back more than has been lost or destroyed, so much so to the point that the final condition is greater than the original. It encompasses healing, renewal, a returning, and reconciliation. Yet where it is easy to see the areas in our lives and surroundings that are in need of restoration, it is an entirely different concept to understand the means through which this will take place. So often, even as believers, we seek an earthly remedy. Yet Isaiah reminds us in chapter 55, verse 8, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith Yahweh." The restoration method that the Torah reveals does not merely focus on the fallen state of man in need of restoration, yet throughout the scriptures cleverly woven from Genesis to Revelation, we find revealed that man's restoration is directly connected to the restoration of the very identity and character of our Creator. As we have previously explored, it is His name, Yahweh, the one who was, who is, and who will be, that reveals the nature and characteristics regarding who He is that starts the restoration journey of His people. He restores His name, His way of keeping time so that we understand how to have access to His presence and see our own time restored. All of this building to our next key point, the restoration of His pure language. Zephaniah chapter 3 verse 9 tells us, "For then I will turn to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of Yahweh to serve Him with one consent." Did you catch the connection? Once His name is revealed, He then promises to restore the only language capable of enabling us to call upon that name, the very language of creation. This, in fact, is a powerful key point regarding the restoration of fallen man. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, we read, "And Yahweh Elohim, the Lord God, formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul." The Hebrew phrase for living soul is nefesh kayah. The cattle and beasts are previously referred to in the same manner, yet there is clearly something distinct with the role of man, as he alone has the very breath of Yahweh breathed into him. It is said a better understanding is that man became a speaking soul. Just as Yahweh spoke all of creation into existence, so man was entrusted and acquired something of the nature of Elohim via his breath, the power of speech. Man, like all of creation, came into existence by the power of the spoken word of Yahweh, yet it is man alone who responds in words. Do you realize before the Almighty created the world, He formed the building blocks of speech, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, that would link together as DNA strands to take on form and cause all of creation to be manifested. In his uncompromised, unfallen condition, Adam was truly in the image of Elohim, with the ability and stewardship to continue this work. We in turn were intended to speak and bring forth life, renewal, rejuvenation, and restoration. Do you now see the significance of the promise of Zephaniah, the restoration of a pure language? When we are restored to the understanding and the fullness of the pure language, the Hebrew tongue, it is with the intent of restoring the original position and authority of Adam in the garden. He restores this holy tongue for His people to, in turn, speak forth life to a fallen creation. Yet it starts with the restoration of you first. A rebuilding of what has been broken down, and now an infusing of His breath into the body that has been formed. And all of creation waits in hushed silence to see if this body will once again become a living, speaking soul. The Hebrew language itself lay dormant for 2,000 years, for all intents and purposes considered a dead language, a mirror of the body meant to house it. Once vibrant and living, now a valley of scattered dry bones spoken of in Ezekiel chapter 37. Yet miraculously, just as Zephaniah foretold, the language was resurrected. all in preparation to be placed within the body that would be formed from those same bones lying in the valley. We are the bones. His language is the breath that brings life and resurrects. The restoration of His pure language is the mirror image of the restoration of His people. It restores, refreshes, and brings life in our homes and hearts, and in turn, we are charged with speaking it forth to see all of creation restored as well. Once again, you and I become a speaking soul. Thank you for tuning in and joining us as we continue to walk down the paths of restoration.